and welcome to the University of Toronto, Mississauga's webinar entitled, What is an Algorithm and Why Should I Care? My name is Shalisa Ibrahim, and I'm an assistant professor of numeracy here at UTM, and also a proud UTM alumna. Here, I get to teach undergrads courses like Critical Thinking for STEM and The Science of Learning with the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy. I also collaborate and lead a few research projects focusing on critical pedagogy, place-based education, mathematical identities, higher education in Caribbean contexts, and threshold concepts and AI. So I'm definitely going to be taking some notes as I learn from today's webinar. To begin, although this event takes place online, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We have alumni and friends from around the world joining us, and we thank you all for being here. Following this presentation, there will be a moderated question and answer period, and we encourage you to submit questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat button, and one of our staff will be there to assist you through a private message. Today, I am delighted to introduce our presenter. Please join me in welcoming Associate Professor in the Department of History at the University of Toronto, L.K. Bertram. L.K. Bertram is an Associate Professor and founder of the AI and Humanities Lab at the University of Toronto, where she teaches courses on algorithms, history, and disinformation. As the anonymous curator of a larger scale open history classroom, 30 million views, her research focuses on histories of capital, race, and sexuality, and critical data packaging for video-based algorithms such as YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Her new work asks, how do we make good data go viral in the disinformation age? Great question to ponder. So thank you so much for joining us here today, LK. Without further ado, I'm going to let you get started.
Thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. Thank you so much for having me. So yes, tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about my work. And I want to offer everyone a really basic introduction to something that's really changing a lot of our lives right now, something that you're encountering on a daily basis. And I'm going to be introducing this topic as a historian. So, like a lot of historians and a lot of other humanities scholars, I see a lot of the changes in our world happening around us. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that we can address it. A lot of the questions that historians ponder about change and technology and democratic institutions really have like a lot to say in this particular time. So today I'm going to introduce, basically like what is an algorithm? Why should I care? And give you a little bit of information about like the larger historical context of the time that we're in today. So first, I'm going to talk just a little bit about what is an algorithm, and I'm going to be focusing on social media algorithms, which a lot of us are already really familiar with. I'm going to be discerning between hype versus reality and algorithmic technology. So when I say algorithmic technology, I just mean like the use of algorithms in like machine programming. And I'll be going through exactly like what that looks like for you today. And second, I'm going to be talking about, why are we seeing so much concern about AI and its challenges to democracy? So technology that uses algorithms has a very strong connection to a lot of the political shifts that we're seeing today. And so my work also asks, when we're living through this age of disinformation, where information is being weaponized and people have a hard time getting a hold of quality content, are these algorithmic technologies really eroding our values and societies? And what can we do about it? And finally, I'll be talking about that particular question, which I think is one of the most important questions that we can ask today is like, well, what do we do, right? Here is the problem. What do we do? So, what are some of our opportunities and actions? None of us are fortune tellers, but sometimes when you can't quite see the road to the future, it really helps to look at where societies have been in the past. So, how can we learn from parallel situations or vaguely parallel situations in the past, and use those lessons to build societies that are more AI ready, and able to stand up for the things that we hold dear as humans in terms of human rights, our democratic institutions, and the advancement of human understanding and learning. So, what time period, in 100 years, when historians are looking back, what will they call this time period? Well, Klaus Schwab, who's the founder of the World Economic Forum, and others have argued that we are in what's called the fourth industrial revolution. So we are experiencing massive political, social, and technological change because of advancements made possible not just by computing, but by the AI age or the algorithmic technology age. And a lot of people, every time I go to a tech conference, I always hear people referencing history. They always say, well, in history like this, things happened like this, and this is why we should make this decision. And as a historian, like I have to tell you that it drives me a little nuts because very few people use those kinds of historical lessons in a really deeply critical way, or they might be referencing one part of history, but it's really an incomplete analysis. So this is like a classic example of what that looks like. A lot of leaders in the tech sector will say, well, they're afraid of technology at first, but then they get used to it. And that's the way the other industrial revolutions happened. It's like, it is not, there's a lot more to that story. So this is kind of a classic like diagram that you would see coming out from like a tech booster. They'd say, well, here's the industrial revolutions. We had, the first three, and then this fourth one, it's going to be the same. Things are going to get better. People are going to be excited eventually, and at first they're reluctant. But what I really like about this graph is that it also kind of subtly tells you what's for lunch in the fourth industrial revolution, right? We can see these two people that are kind of being raised up by this sort of like, I think anxiety producing entity that a lot of us sort of think about and are concerned about. So, what is the reality of the histories of the industrial revolutions? And how can we bring those stories and histories into the present to guide us through this current moment? So, for example, it's really important to note that technological change in the past has indeed brought large scale social change, but sometimes that has been profoundly negative. So, for example, as Frankie Abbott reminds us, it was Whitney's cotton gin and its descendants that helped the Southern states become a major agricultural force in the world economy, the Southern American states, on the back of a growing enslaved population. So, when we see this kind of like marriage between technology and economy, and human labor and human bodies are the fodder for that transformation, like really, really bad things have happened actually in the past. So, how can we value those lessons? How can we stay true to those histories and think really critically about what they have to say about our current moment? Well, first of all, we have to know what are these technologies? What is an algorithm? How does it work? Well, it's basically just a set of rules that are used to complete a task. That's all they are. In social media, these kinds of rules and like it's almost like a recipe, like how to bake a cake. You mix together 3 cups of flour with 2 tables or 2 teaspoons of baking powder, blend the wet ingredients, put them together. It's just like steps. In social media, the tasks that algorithms do there's a bunch of them. They do things like, for example, control what content is displayed, how it's displayed, how it's ranked, and how it's organized. But the actual details about algorithms and how they function in these private platforms are usually company secrets. So if you ever feel like, I understand that algorithms have a lot of influence, but I don't really get what's going on here, that is actually an intentional sort of gray area that's been created for a lot of us because these companies really don't want us to take a very close look at what they're doing and what kind of data they're using when they're creating these kinds of products. So policies change frequently. You can't just study a platform's algorithm and figure it out and publish a paper because they're constantly tweaking it, constantly, abolishing one policy and starting a new one. And again, there's like real roadblocks to figuring out what some of them actually are made up of. And they're widely used also. Like we see the fingerprints of a lot of these kinds of tools used in marketing and inexpensive large scale campaign targeting. So they are just, these little rules. But I was talking to Stephen Keltz the other day, who's a prof at Princeton, and he said, when people say that, when they say, algorithms are just a formula, they're just a series of steps. That's not that's kind of misleading, right? Because that question's much bigger. So algorithms are actually like, for us, it would be like, say you and I are on a boat and you're thinking about maybe jumping in the water and going for a swim, but you know nothing about marine life. And you see like a fish and you ask me like, what fish is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a shark. And I don't tell you what the shark eats or what some of the threats are that the shark could pose to you. That's a little bit of the kind of situation that we're in right now. So it's important to know that algorithms eat data and they eat your data. Their diet is reliant upon just massive, massive amounts of data. And these algorithmic platforms, that's what they require. So what is your data? It's not like they're going into your they just have like a little like form and they like fill out information about you and it goes off. Your data is actually like really complicated. There's a lot of it, and it's a byproduct of your digital life. So whenever you go on Google Maps, for example, say you like want to um, go out somewhere and you're going to meet a friend. Um, different kinds of apps and platforms, they take a lot of information about you. They take like your location, what they think your age is, what you look like, who your friends are, how frequently you go different places. And they use that not only to train different models, but they also harvest it as kind of like a large scale product. So data mining and data sales these days, kind of like the big data economy, it's worth so much money. It's worth 220 billion this year alone, or this past year alone, and it's projected to grow to 800 billion by 2028. And so this is a massive, massive market. And people sell data to other people to do all kinds of things, to train new models, but also to do a lot of targeted advertising and campaigning to people that are willing to pay for your data and information about who you are and what you do. So there's a lot of ways that your data is collected on these social media platforms. But basically, like what algorithms do on social media platforms is one of their main tasks is to figure out how to keep you on there longer and longer. And this is called your TOP, or your time on platform. So the more time that you spend on a social media platform, the more information that it can gather about you, and the more actions it can it can do on you. So, for example, it can send you more ads. It can, engage and like get you to like engage in things that prop up other products, stuff like that. So keeping you on these platforms is a really, really big money maker, and they use algorithms to try to meet that objective. So they kind of ask, like, what are the things that will keep this person on their phone the longest? And you might remember, for those of you that remember like social media in 2009, you might remember what social media used to be like. And that was because it was really different. It was because it was kind of like on a time-based sort of release system. So say you'd go on to Facebook and you'd get like a bunch of photographs from people in your network, but they'd often be ranked according to like what time they were released. So say your auntie Linda puts up a picture of her and her grandson, early in the morning on a Monday when you click on your phone or you turn on your app. then all of a sudden, like that's the first picture you see, right? It's not about like targeting you or figuring things out. It's just like, here's the content. So in 2009, Facebook introduces its tailored news feed, and their goal is to create better TOP for all of its users. And so they start creating a more tailored experience for people by reading a lot more information about what they're interested in, and then using algorithms to deliver that more engageable content. So they would do things like pay attention to what you like and what you don't like, even if you might be lying to yourself about what those things might be as well. So, say, for example, this is your feed in 2009. You see that your old university friend just got married. And unfortunately, you and her had like a really terrible falling out. And so you feel really weird about seeing this wedding picture because you realize you weren't invited to her wedding. Say you also have like, say a friend who's like a social media influencer and it kind of drives you nuts. And you really kind of like don't want to look at this content that's always coming up, featuring them and like where they're going and stuff like that. So you scroll past that very quickly as well. You're teaching the algorithm, I don't like that. And it's paying attention, it's really listening. So then you get to an image and it's of your friend that just bought a dog and you pause and you look at it and you read the caption and you like it and you comment on it. The algorithm's reading that as kind of a high engagement post and it's harvesting all kinds of information about, what is it about this person that they're pausing here. Do they like the person that's in the picture? Do they like the dog that's in the picture? Do they like the curtains in the background? And so it starts to feed more information or more content to you to try to learn. So suddenly you start getting more and more tailored uh, content that responds to your past behavior, right? Your data. So it starts showing you pictures of other dog owners, but you're not as interested. Then it shows you a cat. So it's like maybe this person wants a cat, but maybe you're allergic to cats. And suddenly it shows you a picture of a dachshund and you are into it. You are like, "Ooh, I really like these little dogs. Like this would fit great in my condo. Like he probably wouldn't be too hard to get on a plane." Like this is like a spiral that you start going on. Well, the algorithms are really paying attention to that. And they notice that it's not only keeping you on the platform longer, but if they feed you an ad about, say, getting pet insurance or buying a pet bed or like clicking on a blog post that has information about dachshunds and health problems, that will be kind of like categorized as like really important information about you and can be sold also to advertisers. But this isn't about just social media. This isn't about just marketing. This is about algorithmic tools generally. So, this is kind of like a basic rundown of how they work on social media, but you can apply these to a lot of different things. You can use, for example, like video based data to create and interpret and train for content. You can use audio data, it doesn't have to be text based. You can do all different kinds of things. And what you can do is basically create different kinds of tasks and campaigns and potentially tools that can automate, amplify, and accelerate the execution of tasks that usually humans used to do, right? And you can do it on a scale and at a speed that's really unparalleled in human history. So, this is about like really stepping on the gas in kind of like how a lot of different jobs get done. But it's important to remember that as much as algorithmic tools can automate, amplify, and accelerate work, they also tend to automate, amplify, and accelerate existing problems. So, whatever flaws there are in a lot of this algorithmic tech, whether it's in the technology itself in terms of a bias in the data set, or if it's reflecting a problem within the society itself, it tends to have this kind of effect. So when we talk about the AI age and we talk about, our future with algorithms, it's really important to have that kind of like critical understanding of what this kind of technology can do and how it affects like a lot of different facets of human life. And a lot of the time we see the tech sector itself trying to really like tell us a particular story about this kind of technology. For example, Mark Zuckerberg, a couple of years ago, he had this huge reveal about how like Apple is like the future of privacy, or sorry, Meta is the future of privacy, and like the future is private. But that doesn't really reflect what's actually going on when all of us have so much of our personal data really being taken and sold off to the highest bidder and used to train AI models. Like, to me, that's not how I think of privacy. So it's important for us to discern between the hype and the narratives that the tech sector gives to us and the reality of what is actually happening and the potentials that it creates, right? So, for example, like the future is not private if we have what Shoshana Zuboff calls surveillance capitalism, which means that, a lot of us were being watched not just on our phones, but like by our like home thermostats and like our televisions and even sometimes like our own vacuums, because we have these new hyper connected devices that people often sell to us as being very convenient. Like you can check, the temperature of your fridge from, your trip to Mexico or whatever. The trade-off for all of this is that they sell phenomenal amounts of data about us, our personal habits and our lives in our own homes, right? So we have this new internet of things. So we're surrounded by things that aren't just a phone. They're all different kinds of appliances and also surveillance, infrastructure that are constantly taking that information, right? And then they sell them out to a data broker. So this data broker is like harvesting tons and tons of data. Maybe they're going to do it to, train AI models. Maybe they're going to do it to, build a certain kind of a tool. Maybe they're going to do it for like, send it to marketers, things like that. So we're just losing all of this data. And it can also really like put people at risk when the political climate changes. So say, for example, you're interested you're in Phoenix, Arizona, and you want to go for a hike. So you open up Google Maps, you look for like the best hikes in and around Phoenix, and Google can take that information and make it available to marketers, make it available to people that want to reach people like you. And so you might start getting more targeted ads for things like, health food. Here's someone that like tends to go out to, out exercising. And so that kind of person, in our data sets generally is interested in these kinds of things, and they might have these kinds of interests. You might start getting advertisements for, say, dieting and fat burning things, because they're like, here's someone that's like interested in fitness or for new shoes. Algorithmic tech relies on our data to target us, to make money through advertising, but also to train like important new tools. And it's dangerous because this really isn't about marketing. It can be about so much more, including military applications and democratic suppression. So, for example, we've seen, in a lot of documented instances where this data is also being sold to political parties that want to suppress a certain demographic. So, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, in 2010, there was a national or a federal vote, and the opposing political party was interested in suppressing African Caribbean voters. They wanted to suppress Black voters because they knew they weren't going to support their party. So they hired this social media corporation to do targeted advertising. And they created this totally fake campaign called Do So. And it basically said, not voting is a protest against the system. And they did all kinds of things. They invented a dance for it. They spread it like wildfire through social media networks. And it worked. Like tons and tons of young Black voters stayed home. And now, especially when you see this kind of like the resurgence of MAGA and kind of like the spread of um, more problematic conservative nationalist governments around the world, this is really like one of the ways that you're able to kind of sell people like that an election win. So also like we see in a lot of like in terms of like the current security landscape in the world, we see a lot of different governments using these kinds of campaigns to undermine their opponents. So, for example, in the United States, it was revealed in 2016 that there had been a lot of involvement from the Russian government in the American election, the first election that gave Donald Trump the presidency. And again, in 2020, we can see here like there's this interest from governments like the Russian government in having a certain amount of sway in American popular political opinions. So this is a social media content provider that was called Mafic. They're now defunct, and they were outed after Russia invaded Ukraine by Instagram. Instagram lit up basically all of the Instagram accounts that had a connection to Russian state-controlled media, and it showed us the architecture of what these kinds of disinformation and influence campaigns look like using algorithmic platforms. So you can see here in 2020, one of the top 10 providers of American news and politics was in fact actually a Russian corporation that was had these ties to the Russian government. So they're, we think like, oh, CNN or like, Breitbart, these are such big, American content providers, but like Mafic had them all beat in 2020. So this kind of landscape is really, really valuable territory for political players. And one of the tools that I'd like to give you tonight, if you're interested and you want to poke around and see what this looks like who's paying for my eyeballs, who's running these campaigns, is the Meta Ad Library. So you just like look it up, Meta Ad Library, and you go in here and you can just type in a particular kind of topic, and they will show you who has paid to get those eyeballs. So some of you might be noticing right now in Canada, we have a big like pushback against the carbon tax. And I'm not going to get into politics. I'm just saying this like as a historian and someone that looks at data. This is like there's like a massive, massive social media campaign that actually helped to groom people into focusing on the carbon tax, which is something really, it's like the oil and gas company doesn't want this, right? So this is just one snapshot from all of the paid ads. I found over 5,000 campaigns, and imagine each campaign gets about 20,000 eyeballs or sets of eyeballs on it. It's just like a vast amount of sort of outreach from people that want people to see certain kinds of content and hear different kinds of messages. So this is, we find ourselves at a different period in human history right now, a difficult period. When we're thinking about, what are our core values and how do we safeguard the future of human rights and the future of global democracies? Well, first and foremost, it's really important for all of us to be really critical of the hype surrounding algorithmic technologies and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is really a kind of a brand name. And as Kate Crawford, who is the head of the big Microsoft, one of the big research labs with Microsoft, argues in her book, Atlas of AI, artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor intelligent, right? There's a big profit in all of us just thinking it's too complicated for us, it's too powerful for us to understand. A lot of it's like a smokescreen. So, for example, it's not artificial because, of course, like it's humans that are running it, right? It's humans that are creating it. It's a human tool. And it's not intelligent because it also requires a phenomenal amount of human labor and human data. So it's really humans that are powering all of this, right? But it's a particular kind of business model that's actually quite old. And this is like where I come in as a historian. Like when we look at Silicon Valley, like I right away think about like histories of capital and the California gold rush because they are kind of like they're built sort of on the same model. When people talk about like the big data and like the data gold rush, that is a very apt way of describing it. So we come from, a country that has been founded on corporate monopolies and intergenerational capital that it really does come from the colonial project. When we make these TRC announcements and do our land acknowledgements, it's important to understand that there's a financial dimension to that story as well. And that money is still circulating in our societies. And the monopolies, for example, like the Standard Oil monopoly, which then became, some of the big oil monopolies of our day, including ExxonMobil. Like this is, you can talk about big tech in very, very similar ways. And there's this great book by Tom Kemp, who is one of the authors of California's data privacy laws, about this, called Containing Big Tech. And it's very well written, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, he basically says, like, we're dealing with these monopolies. So what do we do, right? What do we do? We have this kind of like really weird historical moment. We have these tools that are very cheap, very powerful, and they're spreading like wildfire. Well, I would say, as a historian, the best thing you can do right now is think about, like, what are our pathways to mass adaptation? How do we understand and deal with the threats and complications of these technologies in ways that protect those core values, like those core democratic values, those human rights values, those privacy values, and not just kind of sell them because someone tells us technology is too complicated for us, or AI is just too powerful to resist. And during the First World War, for example, I'm just going to do a little U of T shout out here. It's important to remember that the University of Toronto, alongside Canadian society, transformed itself technologically to deal with, like, a collective challenge, right? The challenge of the First World War. And as a historian, I don't like glamorizing the First World War because it was brutal. But one of the great lessons I think that we could learn from it is, like, how the university adapted, right? They had to change really quickly, changing, like, a lecture hall, where you would be learning about classics or learning French or something, into like engineering schools, into flight schools, into like medical labs and things like that. So that is also something that we can do today. And just before I turn the stage over, open up to the audience for questions, I just wanted to also give everybody a little bit of a tool tonight, so that you can do something to protect your privacy a little bit better as well. And so one thing that we often don't think about is how our own data is being taken from us when we're not really thinking. And the best way to deal with that is to actually change some of the settings on your phone. So if you go into your phone and you just go to settings, I challenge you tonight to take a look at what apps have access to your photographs, to your contacts, to your camera, and to your microphone. And just know that there's not a lot of legislation that's being enforced on kind of like taking people's data without their conscious knowledge. And it's important, anytime you download an app, or buy a tool, and it's like, hook this up to the internet, give us permissions to access your camera, stuff like that. Ask yourself, do I really need to do that? Why do they need that information from me, right? Just remember that number, 220 billion. That's like a lot of money. There's a lot of incentives for these companies to be taking that data without you really knowing. And so I highly recommend that you think about, some of these, like, really easy to do actions, like just limiting app access on your phone. Also, we've got like a phenomenal, like really interesting landscape right now in terms of how will we regulate AI appropriately? So there's been some changes on the Canadian political stage about, like, how are we going to regulate AI? But a lot of it's really incomplete, and a lot of AI scientists have stepped out and said they're very, very concerned. So, for example, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has a petition that kind of outlines some of their concerns about the gaps in current AI legislation in Canada, and I highly recommend that you take a look and think about what you think about that particular issue. So, whenever we're faced with a big problem as a society, I think it's always really important to break a big problem down into, like, actionable components. So, figure out, where is your niche. I wouldn't have expected myself 5 years ago to be in this field, but I found, like, there was actually a need for historians. What I see is new technologies that are exacerbating, amplifying, and accelerating old problems. So I think that, and there's this great book about it called Beyond Data by Elizabeth Ramirez. And she argues, a lot of this hoopla about laws not being like fit to deal with AI, that like we have to ignore certain laws because they don't work with AI. She's like, it's nonsense. A lot of our existing laws actually can be translated to the tech sector, can be translated to protect our privacy in the AI age. But it's about like us figuring out how that looks. But again, just like coming back to like, what are those core values? Like, how do we protect these in this time of change? Number two, invest in your own critical AI literacy. Check your privacy settings, be critical of data mining service providers. If, someone's coming in and being like, we want you to download this app so you can get into this dentist appointment. We want you to, give us permission to access your camera so you can run your vacuum. Like that doesn't seem like it's really worth it for you. So just be critical of these providers. And also, if you run a business, if you're involved in kind of like policy or anything like that, be aware of the legal implications that your organization might face when you adopt new tools that might be breaking any kind of privacy laws or federal laws. In the US, there was just a case where they figured out basically, or they a judge ruled that banks were responsible for the errors that AI bots were making. So if someone's like in a chat with an AI bot and the AI bot is like, selling them something or misinforms them and they make a bad financial decision because of that, the bank is liable, not the tool provider. So if you use bad tools, then you could actually be liable. And finally, support ethical tech and policy. So think about joining ethical tech organizations like All Tech is Human, and think about like where do you fit in terms of your own sector, wherever you're coming from. Where can you also be kind of a privacy leader, a data leader, and consider supporting organizations that have maybe a literacy that you might not have or need to build on to advance, some of those core values for yourself. All right, that is it for me for tonight, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Incredible, Professor Bertram. I was just thinking about how I joke around with my friends and my sisters when we share something on social media, and then we start saying how it keeps feeding us the same thing over and over again. But you have really opened my mind to critically think about, and to quote you really, how data is a byproduct of our digital life
Yeah.
and what our digital life is looking like and all the things that we're doing in that. So thank you very much for this presentation. It's been incredible. Um, I'm going to open the floor for questions. Let me see if there's any questions that are there. And I'm wondering actually if it's all just going to
Thank you.
be.
If I could just say one quick thing. So just a reminder to everyone, like I am a historian. So really technical questions about like how do transformers work, like like components of AI tech. Like I'm not gonna do the best job. But just that, yeah, I'm open to questions about like our moment, our historical world, like our jobs, big changes, things like that.
Beautiful. Thank you for prefacing that, Professor Bertram. In fact, one of the questions that just came in was about whether or not governments should introduce more regulations around AI and I guess algorithms as well. What are your thoughts on sort of government regulation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The as a historian, I can say the threat of leaving this kind of technology unregulated is very serious. And, if you could resurrect people from the 1940s and show them what is happening, they'd have a lot of strong words for you. So, you know, our information systems, our communication systems, our access to rigorous journalism, these are like pillars of our society and of our democracies. And we're seeing such an attack on them that it's not worth the threat, right? Like where the benefit is far outweighed by the threat and the damage that it does. So yes, and I think that like so many of the existing institutions that we have, like the CRTC, like privacy offices at universities, a lot of them have kind of been a little bit, pushed into thinking like, well, you can't really do digital stuff. You can't really do that social media platform. That's over here. Don't even think about it. No, no, no. If we're talking about mass communications, we're talking about companies that are operating on Canadian soil using a lot of like Canadian data, Canadian voices, that is absolutely should be subject to the kinds of laws that the people that created those institutions like built their systems for, right? Those are people that value the integrity of communication and connection. And this is really also about us as a society dealing with that issue of polarization as well. Because polarization is, I think that some people don't think about it as being like, think about all of the dimensions of it, but how it's really like pulling apart our societies. Um, we don't have to be in this situation, and there are ways out of it. And I think it's just a lot of it just comes back to the literacy, being able to differentiate between the hype, and kind of like the what the lobbies are telling you in the tech sector, and the reality and the adaptability of our institutions and our ability to change.
Thank you for that consideration. Yeah, because I guess it's not only governments, but we all also the institutions start to make these sort of regulations and policies around things. But does it create polarization or does it, create some sort of unity so people, recognize and also at the same time have ethics and morals that are adhered to in those kinds of regulations? I think this is a great question from one of our guests for you as a historian, Professor Bertram. The question is, in the 1990s, those of us involved in the early stages of the internet collected a lot of data without much security. Is that data still being mined?
Well, it depends on where it is. Yeah, like I think that if you still have, like, for example, if you still have accounts open from like, that you created in the 1990s, like emails and stuff like that, yeah, absolutely, that could be sold, and it's valuable, right? So you have to think about it's really similar to just like leaving your house unlocked. And you might be thinking like, well, there's nothing really in my house that I want, that I want to keep, or it's okay if other people go and take this stuff. It's really similar to like your digital footprint as well. So yeah, in terms of the people that have taken that like have stored data from the 1990s, like can you clarify you have it like stored like on a cloud, or what do you mean exactly?
Don't know the clarification of that will come in time. But I mean, I imagine too that, we've been using the internet for so long. So I think it's just a question of whether or not all of that data in the past, or is this sort of like a new phenomenon because of the technological change with these algorithms?
Gotcha, gotcha. No, I think a lot of your old data is absolutely being used. Like data that you created that was your byproduct in the late 90s, absolutely it's still being used. It just depends on how viable it is as well. And again, this is something a data scientist could tell you more about. But if it's valuable quality data, yeah, like they're very interested in tracking you from your 20s or your teens, throughout your whole life because they'll learn a lot about you. So yeah, it's of interest for sure.
This isn't, I'm sure there's somebody doing a study on that.
There are, yeah, a couple of people.
I have another one. Thanking you for the talk. And then another question is, and I hope I'm reading it correctly, what is the best comeback to the argument that people have been scared of technology before, that
Mhm.
aims to dismiss important questions and critical analysis and also provide a false sense of confidence?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And the phrasing of that question is the best rebuttal. Just like, well, don't you think that creates a false sense of confidence? Don't you think that that's oversimplifying the situation? Like, that's exactly it. You've totally outlined it in the question that you just created. I think one thing that helps for me as well is looking back to the 19th century, to the monopolies of the 19th century, and seeing that actually those often California-based monopolies, they used the same arguments, 100 and sometimes 75 years ago that the tech companies use today. They're like, oh, well, you don't like the railroad monopoly? Well, don't take the train, don't use it. And it's well, it's the foundation of the transport infrastructure. Like, I don't have an option here. So a lot of it's really about kind of yeah, just having that little bit of it's as much really about algorithmic literacy as it is also about historical literacy. But I think you're on the right path, and yeah, you can also tell them to send me an email.
I will do that. Hopefully they're listening. Yeah, and I think your talk actually really highlighted the complexity of these issues and that it isn't, you can't oversimplify what's happening, that it's very complex and it is a historical and political and economical and capital. Like there's so many dimensions to consider this work. So thank you for that. And probably why, like you said, 5 years ago, you never imagined yourself as historian, examining this field, but it is truly a complex space. I have another question here. Maybe you've kind of shared so many moments actually, but maybe there's another one that sticks out. But can you think of another moment in time that is similar to the one that mirrors this accelerated advancement of media? And are there
Mm,
any key learnings that we can learn from, maybe that point in history or other points in history that went through this sort of similar moment of transformation? It's a while to think about this exponential change because of the technological change that's happening with algorithms. So,
yeah,
yeah.
great question. And historians we say history doesn't quite repeat itself, but it rhymes. So what I can tell you is that the speed and the scale is unparalleled. But the dimensions of the problem, there are very similar things that have happened in the past, particularly in the late 19th century with the spread of or the acceleration of newspaper printing and then the growth of news monopolies, like the Hearst monopoly, for example. And then also in the early 20th century with the advent of the radio and all of the problems that happened with the spread of the radio. So another famous person that liked to have a monopoly over the over the radio or over media was of course, Hitler himself. He saw the power of media and the power of being able to give people to get into people's living rooms, right? To give them a radio, to get them to tune into his message. In Canada, what happened on that front was really interesting. We had this evangelical preacher who politically actually has a relationship to Elon Musk, and I can follow up on that if you want. But basically, Elon Musk's grandfather was part of this man's political party. And so it's funny that Elon Musk is so into media because I always wonder, it's there's actually a new biography about him that kind of goes into this. Anyway, I'm doing one of those historian digressions, which is just terrible. But anyway, so when the radio came out in Canada, it was funny because you had this kind of unregulated American radio monopoly, and American radio stations were doing all these really what they saw as morally outrageous radio plays, and so in Canada they had this problem because the preacher that was kind of this pioneer of Canadian popular radio, his programs were so boring and no one really wanted to listen, or the few younger people wanted to listen. So they were we're having this problem where it's American media is taking over Canadian culture. It's taking over Canadian youth. They're all addicted to Dick Tracy and these 1930s radio plays. And this is part of what gives birth to the CBC, for example, was this idea that well, actually we need media that supports Canadian objectives and cultures and helps Canadians. And so, yeah, we had the birth of these organizations that responded to that technological shift. CBC, I don't think is making that pivot right now. I'm not sure why. I think a little bit of it is algorithmic illiteracy. They don't really, they're kind of, I just saw they axed their digital programming, for example. That's a pretty bad move to do in 2024. So again, it's kind of the institution not meeting the challenges of the technological time, but it doesn't mean that that can't happen. It certainly can.
Thank you for that. I really resonate with this sort of history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So thank you for sharing a few of these historical moments that, might offer a way of us understanding the present and the future. I'm going to shift a little bit with this question here because I thought it was interesting. It says, can you discuss the concept of saving documents to a cloud? Is
Mm.
the data available to others? And I have this question in my mind all the time, like, what is the cloud?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The cloud, I mean, this is part of these massive, massive data storage centers, right? And there's been actually a lot of important work done, including by this visiting scholar named Teresa Heffernan, that talks about how environmentally damaging the energy demands are of these giant data banks where people are storing, these companies are storing just massive amounts of data and have to keep the servers running and keep them cool. So yeah, the cloud is basically, I mean, hopefully I get this right. So it's basically just this like massive, massive data ocean of just like everything that is uploaded to it. And you've maybe noticed lately that a lot of servers and stuff, like they're trying to get people to shift away from storing things on their device where it'll be private and encouraging people instead to upload it to our secure server. And it's like, and then if you read the fine print, it's like, we may offer third party third parties access to this data for the following reasons. And it's like, they're kind of like unhinged sort of like privacy traps. So yeah, it's basically like a giant place where there's still not a lot of regulation about what is protected. Um, what kind of protections are enforced also? Do companies enforce their own rules? There's just been some important journalism done recently that talks about like, well, we don't even know if these companies are really even doing what they say they're doing because there's not really a lot of oversight and really like important there's not really like significant penalties imposed on them for these kinds of breaches. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of situation we're in. And there's a lot of ways out of it.
Hmm. Um, I feel like, when we think about where all of this information is and and data that's being, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word curated or, taken from all of these spaces and really, really lived in our space. It's like there's this one question here, which I'm kind of combining to, which is the society ready for this digital world? And another question is talking about education spaces, So I'm just trying to think about like, is society ready for this digital world? And what is the perspective that we could help instill with our students? Like, the question about them is, should we be teaching them to use AI critically? Is it a scary space? Or what are the ways that we might approach that if we also are in a space of trying to prepare society for this digital world?
That's such a good question. And I was just giving a workshop to civics teachers in the United States last week about this exact question. So Klaus Schwab, his book on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, it's actually really, really good, really, really interesting. Highly recommend. Available as an audiobook. So one of the cool things he says is that in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the people that will be able to survive and adapt are the people that adopt new kinds of leadership models. And they're different from, say, the time we're in right now, where it's like very hierarchical. So, like, say me and my students, for example, it's me, I'm the professor, then I have my TA, then I have my students who are supposed to be like, down here, and don't really like help teach the class or anything like that. It's like very hierarchical. So, what Klaus Schwab says is like, we need to adopt more flat leadership models so that different kinds of thinkers, people coming from different perspectives, and definitely like with an intergenerational focus, are working together more strategically to make better decisions. So this is something that I do in my own teaching now because I teach like, data packaging. And I'm really blessed because a lot of my students are all algorithmic natives. They know these algorithms really well because they grew up on them, watching YouTube, playing Minecraft, stuff like that. And so when you elevate kind of like these younger learners and kind of like put them into positions of kind of like supported leadership where you like help them kind of like make their own leadership decisions and kind of like build into projects using their strengths. Yeah, like I think that's really going to be the way to go. is like we have to have way more youth leadership. We have to really value youth and the skills and strengths that they bring. They're not ready to go. Like people have too much faith sometimes in algorithmic natives. They're like, you know, technology, you be in charge. Don't do that either. Like they don't know a lot of things. Like, for example, like the more complicated problems that can arise and how they apply to like, bigger structures like legal structures or political structures. But they have a lot of strengths. And I think that they're going to be essential to all of us moving forward in a better way.
Wow, that's it sounds like so transforming. Like who knows what governance and leadership is going to look like in the future, especially because we've only known it to look one way for so long. So this is really, really profound. I can't wait to read that book, or maybe I'll listen to it on audio.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll end with this one last question. Let's see here. There's so many good ones. This one's a big shift. And it was really just about when websites are sending out their agreements regarding our privacy for our data. How would the typical consumer, understand that legal lingo, and who wants or has the time to read the pages and pages of company rules? And I think most of us are on a lot of social platforms without really truly understanding how the data is being mined. So I don't know, maybe it's a question about how do we become more conscious and critical
Hmm.
what we're signing up for?
Well, I got to tell you, another thing that the 19th century monopolies did was they gave people the illusion that they had a choice.
Mm.
And they would do things like you're describing. They'd be like, "Oh, you don't want to use our banking system? Well, here you can take a passenger pigeon and make a paper airplane and try to get your message that way, right?" Like, so the first thing I have to say about those privacy notices is like, I'm sorry, like that is not the way things should be. When you want to order a pizza and give a pizza company your money, there's like a big red shiny button and you're like, ding, done. There's the pizza. When you're like, I have questions about my privacy, they're like, here's a 45-page illegible essay that actually doesn't tell you anything and doesn't even give you a choice. It's a punishment. And Frank McCourt and Tom Kemp talk about this in their book. They're both of their books. It's called shadow patterns. And so no one comes out and says this, but they've basically created a system where you're forced to do something. You're forced to click accept, right? And they don't want to come out and say that, like, we're forcing you to just use this and give up all your data, because that's really bad for the brand, right? That's bad for everybody's brand, especially like the big three's brand, right? The Microsoft, Amazon, well, Meta, and all the rest. So yeah, those privacy notices are terrible. They're based on kind of like an older idea that if people consent to give away their data, then you should be allowed to do it. But the consent part is actually missing. It's like they're not really giving us a choice, are they? Right? So they're going to be much more robust, much more fabulous, rewarding, helpful, productive privacy options for all of us. And there's some great advances happening in the EU. There's so many options for us. So yeah, when you see that notice, it's a shadow pattern, and we're in this kind of situation. But again, like we don't have to be. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, shadow patterns. I'm learning all this great terminology, and I certainly have been a victim to clickbait, and recognizing that I feel so forced. It's like some sort of like magnet trying to get me to click on something, and I'm going to be more conscious and critical of that. And I'm definitely going to be scanning all of my apps to see what access they have to all of my private materials. And hopefully, everyone that has joined us today will be doing the same. I do have to close, and I just want to thank you on behalf of U of T Mississauga. I want to thank Professor Bertram for your presentation and responses to the questions from our alumni audience. Thank you very much. And if you have any closing remarks.
Uh, I don't know. Thank you everyone for coming. Like honestly, every time people show up for stuff like this, like it makes me feel really excited and There's a lot of people that feel this way, so you're not alone and you belong in this kind of conversation.
Thank you so much. All right, well, to our audience, we received a lot of questions today, and we apologize if we were not able to get to yours. So everyone who registered for today's event will receive a link to the recording in their inboxes in the coming days. Along with the recording, you will have the option to take an online post-event survey, and we do hope you'll take a couple of minutes to complete it, as your feedback is helpful for us to plan our future events. And if you enjoyed today's webinar, be sure to check out the upcoming events listed through our UTM alumni webpage. And you should see that link for more information pop up right now in the chat box. And it will also be included in the post-event survey details. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to hosting you again at another U of T alumni event. All the best.